So, good afternoon. And after quite a productive afternoon of in depth discussion and sometimes very uncomfortable discussions about interests and values, identity, and also the different angles that we heard just now, this is not just the panel to summarize our findings and understanding, but to create some kind of turning point for continuation, not just what happened and what went wrong, but what do we want to do now? We did learn here that U.S. and Israel relations are not a foreign affair. It's actually a strategic affair. It's a matter of values and identity and security built for decades, but now is being tested at the same time at few arenas. Geopolitical one where United States, as we saw, re-examines partnerships through different lens than in the past. Some of their business point of view, and in the Middle East, they're using the same length as well. So the political arena where Israel became a partisan issue, internal American arena that is going through generational identity and norms change, and the U.S. jury is experiencing the same level of changes, and the arena of values where the rights of law and the security and rights are not on the same axis of concern that is obvious. The big question that hovers here above those discussions is, I think, whether the alliance is in danger. At this current panel, I would like actually to target a bit of a different angle, whether Israel knows how to adjust to this changing alliance. So some people see the world as it is and ask why I see the world as it should be and ask why not. Let's try for a second to talk about what is possible. And this panel will not suggest slogans, but generate directions of action. And for the joint thinking, we invited few speakers that in the past and now, they're focused on the beating heart of the connection, and I hope this connection cannot be separated between the United States and Israel. Dr. Eyal Hulata, former advisor of national security and the head of the Council of National Security and a fellow in FDD, and a former colleague of mine, Brigadier General Mike Herzog, a former ambassador of Israel in the United States, a senior fellow in Washington Institute today, Colonel Pnina Sharvit, Baruch, director of Israel and Global Arena Research Program here in INSS, and a fellow, former General Consul of Israel in San Francisco, is currently a fellow in INSS as well. And for the sake of the discussion, I would like to suggest a different framing. Three axes for thought that can serve us as a part of the discussion. The first axe, interest and assets. How Israel can preserve its position as a strategic vital partner in the era of competition between superpowers, Middle Eastern fatigue, and change of the priorities. The second axis, values, legitimacy, how Israel will reinforce anew the foundations of value foundation, not just with the government and administration, but the public, Congress, academic world, young generation with all the versatile aspects, and American Jews. And the third axis, the management of the connection, not just the meaning and the content, but also the management of the relationship. So how Israeli policy, smart policy, continuous policy, not responsive policy towards the United States will provide reinforcement of special relations, coordination, investment, and deep understanding of culture and politics of American society. So let's start from inwards outbound. Let's start with you, Akiva. American Jews are attacked from both sides of the political groups, anti-Zionist, progressive at the left, trying taking over the Democratic Party, populist rights that brings up an outdated anti-Semitism from the 30s of the previous century, and how the state of Israel should address this distress of the Jewish community. So first and foremost, what we need to do is to improve our status, because the status of Israel is the toxicity that Israel is now, that's what allows those anti-Zionist currents, anti-Jew currents on both of the sides of the Eyal. If we'll manage to improve our status, our position, the situation with the Jews will improve as well. Uh, I want to quote Rabbi Cosgrove. He said it 2 weeks ago in the Council of American Jewish Movement. American Jews feel that the feeling, it's a certain gut feeling that I think is actually true. Somehow we do have to restart anew the relationship with American Jews to show that we care about their distress, about their troubles, not just because of the bipartisan threat, but because we care. What Israel needs to do is to find a way to restart those relationships. Again, I think a right framework can be some kind of initiative of the president of the state of Israel to create a dialogue, a very lacking dialogue to communicate of how can we actually show that we care one for another and what can we do to strengthen this connection. Another question for you is actually the topic of alleged dispute between Christianity and Zionism here. Tucker Council called the Zionist Christianity as a heresy, he said. How Israel can help our friends in the world, the evangelical Christians, for example. Um, well, while we do see an attack upon our Zionist Christian friends, Tucker Carlson called it a heresy, which is obviously quite a strong statement. It's also a dispute within Christianity, but it's actually a result of a certain status of Israel that allows such an attack. I think at this particular point, what we need to do is to try never waste a crisis, as Churchill warned us. This is a crisis that can be an opportunity to actually create a dialogue that never existed between the Jews of the United States and the Christian leadership, pro-Israeli Christian leadership, together with us in order to defend ourselves and fight off the joint enemy. Tucker Carlson attack among the evangelical Christianity is actually an attack upon the Judeo-Christian idea, the idea that the Bible, the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament are the source of values, and the Jewish narrative is a very deep narrative embedded within the American values. This is an opportunity, in fact, to work together, come as Jews and Ambassador Hakib and his friends, something they never did in the past, in order to defend ourselves against the attack upon decency. Thank you. Mike, I would like to move to you and to bring up additional layer to step out from the relationship of Israel and the United States. In fact, you recently said, you talked about the danger that is on the horizon, that Israel will lose America. Can you elaborate on that? What did you mean? How we need to cope with this challenge that is on the horizon? At the same time, I would like to ask you again the next question. I see the lack of time we have. 2028 MOU is about to expire. We want to arrange the next multi-annual military aid. Whether Israel needs to aspire towards the MOU at its current layout, or shall we change it? Shall it be more based on projects, technology, looking into the future, regional? How do you see that? Also, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. U.S. and Israel relationship were defined for decades as special relationships. We always define them as such in the American Party as well. Ironclad connection and etc. We're all familiar with this discourse. Now, special relations that were indeed very special, and those of you who were ambassadors in the United States can see the full picture. It's extraordinary connection. They relied upon many elements, joint values, common interests, common interests, of course. An American perception that Israel has a unique contribution to national security of the United States in intelligence and in military doctrine, a war on terrorism, war on nuclear proliferation, many aspects really, and a real deep affinity between the nations that is based on the patriotic, entrepreneurial spirit we share. And I'm on a certain generation Bible, of course, Judeo-Christian nexus, member of the Holocaust and etc. And it relies upon an influential and strong Jewish community, bipartisan support of the State of Israel, and the fact that we never asked America to send soldiers to fight for us. It's all been eroded and eroded significantly in the way that I see is a very dangerous erosion for the next years to come. Each of those elements that I mentioned has been eroded. Shared values, there's so many question marks and so much criticism in the United States of whether Israel is indeed still the same democracy that we knew. We're diverging from this narrative. By the way, in America, there are also changes in values as well, not just because of the right. The left values are also a discussion. And I will not open it because we don't have, unfortunately, time for that. Joint interests, there are more and more voices from the right and the left that basically declare what is the contribution of Israel to the national security of the United States, whether Israel, in fact, might be more of a burden than actually an asset. We hear that a lot, really, a lot, that Israel in the end does whatever it finds fit and want to drag the United States into the wars. On the right wing, that support of Israel, in fact, is undermining the principle of America first, and etc. And on the popular level, especially among the younger generation, there is a erosion of the image of the State of Israel, undermining of the whole idea of Judeo-Christian values. The Jewish community doesn't have this influence it had. There was a very important article during the war about the end of the golden era of American Jewry. The Jewish lobby doesn't have this, pro-Israel lobby doesn't have the same strength. And I will never forget the conversation I had with an activist that defended the Jewish students on the campuses. And she told me, the Jews, we need our civil rights movement the way the black people did. It's such a powerful statement if you come to think of it. All of those aspects were eroded on a dangerous level, some of it unrelated for us, internal processes of US social changes, cultural changes, demographic changes in America. Some of them are direct result of Israeli reality. The war in Gaza caused a heavy damage to the status and image of the State of Israel. Not all of it is our fault. There is no this was a just war, but the fact is that we got eroded. As an ambassador, I used to get phones from our friends, including Republicans, that told me, what are you doing in Gaza? Why do you starve the population? Why do you kill children? I had to explain to them that this is not true. This is horrible damage to an image of Israel, really. And in the end of the day, when you ask me what is this, what is it to lose America in my eyes, it's that within, I don't know, a few 10 or 15, 20 years from now, our relationship with the United States will become, instead of special, into regular. Just another country, and that what may happen. I see this process is happening in front of my eyes. And the United States, as we all know, obviously the greatest supporter and closest friend that always was a political and a security umbrella for us, and we saw that our shield and the proof during the last war was very clear to all. I'll give you one example. 10 or 15 years ago, when the military aid for Israel, munition and arms was submitted to the Congress, there was no discussion about this. Such each submission is being challenged in the Congress. Joint resolution of disapproval, challenging that when I was an ambassador. 50% of Democrats in the Senate supported it. Now more than 50% are supporting this joint disapproval, and within a few years it will pass, it will ratify. This is a huge threat. And I would finish here in the State of Israel. Government of Israel has no strategy to address American arena. It's been said here. Michal said a lot of tactics, but no strategy at all. And we need a long-term strategic approach. We need a coordinating factor in the government of Israel, subjected to the Prime Minister, not the Minister of Foreign Affairs. With due respect, we have a Director General of the North American Division here, the great and all, but it has to be on a different level, not the Minister of Defense, a different level. So we need to frame ourselves as a partner, not as someone who is rely upon the United States, but as a partner. And we need to show our value, and we need delegations to use all of the different strategies with the young generation. Social media investment, we're not there, we need to invest capital into it. Israeli community, it's almost 1 million of former Israelis, to invest much more into bipartisan policy. So many challenges there. I know with the Jewish community, by the way, we don't have national leadership, Jewish leadership. That is a national leadership. We have administrative leadership, but not national leadership. So many things are lacking. I don't want here to open it, but now to the question that you asked about MOU. Security relationship between Israel and the United States have strategic importance for the national security of Israel. We all understand that, and our predecessors were correct organizing it in legislation and various frameworks that organize it in the structures. There is a legislation that preserves quality advantage of Israel, quantitative advantage of, sorry, prepositioning. An MOU is a main tool to arrange the military aid for the state of Israel. This aid, from one hand, is vital, and we, after 2 years of very harsh existential war. But I also see today here as an opportunity in the sense that the national security strategy of the United States states that we want to disengage a bit or to decrease our footprint in the Middle East and to provide a subcontracting arrangement, and no one is better than Israel to do that in the Middle East. We just proved our capacity and our abilities here during this war. Well, we approach the MOU, we need to understand the American arena changed. You can't approach with more the same, cuts and paste, and say, you know what, let's do the same we did, let's ask you for annual aid, and etc. It just will not work. Today in the American discourse, from the left it will not work, and from the right it will not work. There are a lot of reservations about foreign aid, and why will we give Israel anything? Israel is a rich country, they should invest. Again, it's a burden sharing, so Israel need to step up, and why we would need to give them, let them spend the budgets. I will not even repeat those plans, it's all obvious, but I think that the state of Israel, and has to be a central part of the strategy of ours, has to create a different MOU with a number of components to actually make it up for everything we spent during this war. But we need to add layers of partnership, to frame it as a partnership and not as the aid. Technological cooperation, R&D, part of the supply chain of the American industrial base, etc. And I think together with the other matters, it can position Israel in a different part of Israel, of American arena. Thank you, Mike, and I have to respond, by the way. 8 years ago, the research division in the intelligence and Shin Bet issued a paper on the topic of vulnerability of Israeli-American relations. It was in 2018. INSS published a warning, and it was a special conference. It was a political warning, a relationship between U.S. and Israel, beginning of erosion of relations. Today you call it already, we lost America, we're about to lose America within a minute. And then the connection, this management of this connection, again, I completely agree with you. I think it shouldn't be just in the hands of the foreign affairs. It should be lateral, it should be in depth, all the ministries and everyone. So with me, there were different representatives of ministries, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Science, Ministry of Health. We need to do anything people's to people's relations. And it's sad that we're here. We warned and warned and warned. We're actually in the other, in opposite direction, 7 years. In 7 good years and 7 bad years, as the Bible says, we have 7 bad years. What does it mean, the erosion of special relations? And how it impacts our relations? So I really chime with this idea. We need to do everything we can in order to preserve those special relations, but we need to prepare to the day after. It's like the climate change, there's the prevention of global warming and there is also the adaptation for the day after. If you fail, we are working that here. So I think that we shouldn't spend too much words. To what extent the US is important for us. Military aid, of course, political support, and the last word really proves that if you don't know how much they helped us, really, you need to look around. So, in all of the other fields of everything that is happening in the state, but really, let's talk about international arena. And I think here, actually, we need to talk about the eighth front, but there is this front of the campaign against Israel on the international arena, which is the campaign we are unfortunately losing at that particular point. And in this campaign, United States as well is extremely central. It's a very important ally for us in this battle in us to stop various moves against Israel. Obviously, the Security Council through the veto and also the deterrence of different factors that are interested in promoting different steps against boycott, sanctions, and etc. And Israel needs American help. So we have the American persuasion and American whip at our side. And it's there when it comes to our conduct in the UN, which is a very problematic organization for us. UN, with their reports and various procedures, and the International Court of Justice, and the ICJ, the genocide trial, and the criminal court matters there, United States as well. Maybe this administration is very hostile toward those entities, unrelated. They even impose sanctions upon the judges and ICC, different participants of ICC, cadre. But this is helping us a lot, and we need them there. And this is quite a contrarian administration towards the international institutions. But when we think about the future one, and we talk about different reefs, a democratic will be conducting themselves quite an opposite to this current administration because of American politics as well. It can be more of the same on the international arena because this administration is so contrarian and they try to weaken the international institutions. Democratic administration may become, when they will come to power, quite a supporter of those institutions to reinforce them and to reinforce again anew the rules-based order and the status of various international legal entities. And if this administration will not be a supporter of Israeli policy, let's put it this way, in different fields, and will be in general connected to some kind of intent to reinstall the central rules, again, we'll find ourselves in this campaign that still continues to be part of our reality for many years. Those processes take time, and we may find ourselves very isolated without an ally that helps us. And different processes of isolation and risk of boycotts that we see right now as budding, but may become even sanctions on Israel and actual danger of existence. And our expulsion from different organizations, for example, Horizon program and other programs of that sort. So I have a problem with the mic.
אז אני חושבת שגם במישור הזה אנחנו צריכים מצד אחד להמשיך לחזק מאוד את הקשר עם ארצות הברית.
We need to reinforce our connection to explain to them why is it their interest to support us on the international arena. Because it protects their interests as well. If there will be too many restrictions and limitations of how to fight wars, in the end it will be imposed upon American military as well. But also because of the interest of preserving Israel and to prepare towards the day when not necessarily the support will be guaranteed for us. If they will be paying prices in international or national American arena for the future administration, we may find ourselves very lonely in this very harsh campaign. Thank you, Pnina. It will connect me to the next question I wanted to ask you. If we will be becoming more and more boycotted on a multilateral arena, It's called regionalism, right? In the international arena, regionalist approach. We talked about that so often. What is the Israeli bloc? Are we part of the European bloc, or is it actually supposed to be a regional Middle Eastern bloc? Do we belong to any bloc? And you, Eyal, I wanted to ask about this particular point. If following the war, there are also regional opportunities for Israel, and how can it be integrated in our U.S.-Israel relations in the long term? So I actually think where to start because this was quite a depressing panel up to now, really. Yeah, and it brought us even further down. Yeah, that's. I'm not used to say it on this particular point of being someone who has good news. But if I don't have a choice, I'll be delivering you the good news then. So first of all, though, I want to address the regional aspect because I think there's so many opportunities now. Regional, and I think that the regional component and an Israeli choice of how to position itself into the future in this current reality, I think it actually entails a lot of benefits that will influence our relationship with the United States and what Israel can bring to the table in the future. Naturally, we talk here about the junction, about the choice that is currently exists in front of Israel when we choose relationship with the United States, with the Jewish community there, where to go and where to turn. But actually we do know that Israel is on the junction that is connected to what is Israel, what is its future, and what kind of choices, principal choices, and sets of values will embed it in Israel. First of all, the possibilities and opportunities that the United States currently has polarization of opposite value sets, in fact. I'm not really sure that we are at the same point of severity in Israel, but we're definitely on the way there. We are on our way to this rift. I lived for 2 years in Washington until the war, until the last summer. Transitioned from Biden administration to the beginning of Trump's administration, and it's difficult to describe. I think we experience it in Israel as well. I think we need to look upon ourselves before we actually looking at the American system. Things said here about American expectations of Israel. I think we need to ask ourselves, what is our expectation of ourselves? In which reality do we want to live? There are a few processes that are happening here for dozens of years, and definitely in the last few years, that deliver the capacity of Israel to position itself in the middle of a pragmatic region. The region itself has been polarized extremely now between different polars. It's not too lengthy of a lecture I would like to give you here, but let's look at the region. Let's call it pragmatic states in the region. I call them pragmatic because, again, it's not about liberal states. The Abraham Accords are not democracies. Those countries are not democratic states. They're not liberal or pluralistic states. They all have their own ways, but they have a pragmatic approach of themselves and their future. I think it actually applies to Israel and Jordan when they preserve themselves the way they are. And Abraham, of course, expressed it so clearly. All of those countries, when they look at the threats around them, there's a polar, an axis, a Shia axis that creates a regional threat that is very significant since 1979, the revolution in Iran. Israel suffers, and not just Israel, others as well. There is an empty chair in Mashdels that is awaiting the Bahraini representative as the 39th district of Iran. So it's great to have an historian near you. They always help. So yeah, they are the threat, and the Emirates and the Saudis as well. They need of maintaining a relationship with the Iranian threat is a result of their own national security, as a result of their understanding that no one will help them. We can talk a lot, and by the way, rightfully so, about the dependence of Israel upon the United States. There are a lot of good components, but if there is something that countries here know, that Israel will be always protected by the U.S. if there will be a threat, and been proved during the last 2 years. And Mike is right, we eroded Israel's ability to defend itself on its own. It happened in the past in 1991 during the first Gulf War. Patriots batteries were here. They worked more now. Great. Our connection to CENTCOM, etc. And the aerial regional defense system that works so beautifully. It eroded maybe an ability of Israel to stand alone. Yes, it did, of course, and it's okay, I think, in my eyes. So, but it's also works. It proved other countries that it works, and they tell me that. The Emirates in December of 2021 and January 22, when the Houthis launched their ballistic and missiles, Mike, you probably remember those conversations, and they asked themselves, what about us? Where are we as Emiratis? Where United States are? You waited for the President Biden to call them for a week. He called Ben Zayed after a week and said, I'm with you. And in 24 hours, we had here an aircraft carrier and fighting jets within 24 hours. It was correct for Biden and it's correct for Trump as well. Will it be eroded? Yes, of course. Is it guaranteed for the next presidency? No. I think probably there are chances, but we can't count on that. But what I think is really possible, and here Israel has to do something, is to understand the strengths that it entails. We're a tiny mouse with a big elephant, but we're a big mouse. We're quite a big mouth. In our ability to navigate that, I think that if Israel will learn and understand that its position as a central axis of pragmatism in the region, it also connects to MOU. Mike and I, we talk about that a lot. We always look at MOU of how United States helps Israel, but we need to have more expanded overview. It should show us how the United States will allow Israel to lead here a front that will be addressing and doing the offloading of American interests in the area. When they look at the Western Hemisphere and Asia, Israel will be taking upon itself this role of fulfilling and protecting American interests here. The ambassador talked about that in the interview. And said something very important about the direct security contribution of Israel. And I think that Lior mentioned that this MOU goes back to the United States. It's an investment for them, in fact, and the return on investment here is very significant. The Americans know that. The Biden administration knew that, and the Trump administration knows that. We just don't know how to frame it. We don't talk about that in this sense. We don't talk about that like that because we don't take this responsibility upon ourselves. We're not used to that. We need to take upon ourselves this understanding that when the Americans have interest, Israel has to adjust the rhetorics and the actions as well. I'm very critical of that, but I think we do here an attack in Doha and the brain light with the aircrafts, and then we're surprised that the countries of the region are waving a flag of so who is threatening the stability of the Middle East. And a broad daylight, the attack in Doha, that has certain ramifications, but I think it also can allow us a certain an expanded overview upon our role, pragmatic role, hopefully. It depends on the Israeli policy, depends on the Israeli government. You need to want to be part of the pragmatic alliance. We need to choose the set of values to use our power when it's necessary, but the rest of the time to understand that we live here in this region. Not all of the ministers of the government agree with what I said, all as an understatement, but it's choice, Israeli choice of who we are. And I think it will answer to ourselves the question, who are we? And there is a big, stable Israeli majority that understands in depth the meaning of those choices. I'm quite optimistic when it comes to the future. When we'll do it properly, I think it will influence positively our relations with the United States as well. Yeah, you gave us here recommendations for actions and different directions of overview. And I think these action items actually that you brought up here can be very helpful and to highlight the fact that we're an asset. And now in the second round, we have a minute, each of you. One sentence. And the question is for all of you. Same question. Try to answer it with different questions. Where would you like to see our relationship within a decade? Not where would you like to see them within a decade from now? I would like them to be excellent, but instead of that, I would like to give two action points, operational recommendations. I think the most important burning, pressing issue when it comes to the image of Israel and status of Israel is to win. ICJ, genocide trial. It will change the status of Jews in the United States. It will completely change our status, the public opinion of the West for the next decades from now. I'm very much concerned that we are not paying attention. There's a legal team of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Law, great people, obviously. But they're preparing a document for the judges. We are supposed to conduct this trial as the O.J. Simpson trial. It should be a public campaign. It should be a public awareness campaign, a research campaign that responds and rebuttals all of those statements of the ICJ. And it's not happening. And we need to repuzzle all of it. The government doesn't want to defend itself. It's a disaster. We need to address it. On the Jewish matter, I think that we need some kind of an injection. Taglit, the birthright movement is 30,000 young people come here. And the state of Israel can bring a lot of money. It's an investment, as we say. Mr. Huckabee just said aid is invested back into the United States. So birthright is also invested into Israel beside the flight. We can reach 70,000, and it will change the whole ambience, really. And the passages program for evangelical youth, passages for the evangelical youth, we can bring 100,000 youngsters. That will be the greatest answer, the best answer to Tucker Carlson. Pnina, and here I have another point, a recommendation for actions. I think that someone said it before in the previous panel. I think we need to talk with our critics, not the critics that hate Israel, the anti-Semitic ones, obviously, but the critics that are really concerned of what's happening in Israel. We need to provide them with answers. ICJ, agree completely. To explain why it's not a genocide. But I really don't like the fact we shouldn't be apologetic. We just know we can actually come not apologetic, but to provide answers to concerns that surface up. Where we would like to be, again, another aspect I would like to touch upon. I really hope that within 10 years from now, the world will come back to liberal values as leading values in the United States, in Israel, and I think there is a connection. I think that one of the most restricting factors for years of the governments of Israel was also the United States. And it's not always a bad thing. So we need to see the return. I think it endangers us inwards as well. Hope we'll get back with understanding of various needs, of course. It's not some kind of like happy and hunky-dory left and utopia. No, but we need to find this balance between the values and security. Very briefly, I would like to talk about the connection between the Jews of the United States and Israel in my answer again, because there's absolutely no connection between our status in the region and the connection to United States Jews. I want to go back to this point. I think in addition to the very fact that it has a positive impact upon American policy towards us, I think Israel has a responsibility. Israel carries a responsibility, not just because the majority of the Jewish people right now are here for the first time. I don't know since when, since Bar Kokhba rebellion against the Romans, but I think unrelated to the way that our actions, well, obviously that's not because if we will become the gravity center of the Jewish people, we carry responsibility for the future of the Jewish people. And this is one of the principles of the creation of the State of Israel, when we had only 6,000 Jews here in almost 80 years ago. But I think without it, but Israel has to be religiously pluralistic, politically pluralistic. We need to feel safe here as a safe haven. That's something that we need to foster. It's a matter of national security. I'm running out of time. So I voiced here a pessimistic prognosis. I don't think it's a lost cause. I think it depends on us. It's up to us what will we do with the American arena. And I would like to see us in the special relations within a decade from now, we're positioned as a real partner for United States on a strategic level. And here I would add also a layer from what we are, and central access in the American-Israeli region alliance. We can do it. We have a lot to contribute on security, technology, and other aspects. And in the end, a word about the Jews. Look, I was an ambassador on October 7th. What I did experience from the Jewish community, I will never forget that. The awakening, the wave of anti-Semitism erupted few hours after October 7th. We wrote thousands of phones from Jews that we never were in touch with. They were never in touch with us and said, what can we do? Amazing energy. It just showed me to what extent this important role that Israel plays in the Jewish identity of American Jews. We need to translate that into different programs. We talk about being the light for the Gentiles. I want to be the light for the Jews. Thank you, Mike. During the war, they called standing together. So the alliance with the United States obviously is not obvious. So the national project of integration of security, technology, values, diplomacy, community, and etc. And thank you for participating in this discussion. Obviously, we're not done. And our actions, our political and diplomatic actions start. And let's talk about that more.